Welcome to the Certified Badass Online Marketing Podcast, where being a badass has less to do with what you wear and what music you listen to, and everything to do with whether you've got the thriving online business of your dreams. I'm your renegade thinking Harvard Law grad turned online entrepreneur host, Bobby Klink. In my years building my thriving business, the most important lesson I've learned is that being a badass online marketer isn't about secret strategies or ninja tactics. It's about doing the basic stuff right and showing the F up. So each week here on the show, you'll get clear, easy to execute guidance on how to build your online business and a swift kick in the ass or two to make sure you're getting it done. Okay, we're trying this again. Welcome to the first ever Friday live episode of the Certified Badass Online Marketing Podcast. Now, I say we're starting this again because this is the first time we're doing this Friday episode. We're going to start doing them live, and this is the first time that we are doing it live. And I just started, and when I started, I did it wrong. So now, hopefully you all can hear me. I had my mic set wrong, which happens sometimes when you're doing something new. So, but for those of you who are joining me on my Facebook Live, fantastic. I'm excited you're here. I hope someone will drop in a comment saying you can hear me, so I'm 100% sure. For those of you who are listening to this on iTunes, on Stitcher, on any of the other kind of podcast apps, you might be saying, wait, what is he talking about live episodes? My Friday episodes are now being recorded live on my Facebook page, bobbyklink.com, or sorry, the Bobby Klink page on Facebook. You can find us there. And then automatically, through the magics of technology, they are being uploaded to Libsyn, which then sends them out to the podcast app. So if you're listening to me there, that's where why I said live. And in the future, I hope you'll join me. From now on, our Friday episodes are recorded live on my page at noon Eastern time. That's what we're doing to have some fun. Now, I got to give you a little bit of why a reason why you should join me live. Number one, you'll get to see me and you get to see some fun things. Like, for example, today I am wearing a shirt that says "Not a Ninja." I'm going to move my mic. I did this before for people who are here, but for people who are just now seeing it, you'll see it. And I'm wearing it because it's one of my favorite sayings that being a badass online marketer is not about ninja tactics or secrets or any of that stuff. It's about doing the basics right. So that's some of it. Now, the other reason you might want to join me is you get to see like how I do things. Like, for example, my notes aren't very high tech. My notes are a piece of legal paper with Sharpie on it. That's how I make my notes. And that's how I do things. And, you know, little things like that I think a lot of people get a kick out of. Like, I'm an online marketer, but literally I use a Sharpie and paper for my notes because I still like writing. So you should join us live. It'll be fun. There'll be a lot of interaction in the comments, I bet. I'm not going to engage because, again, that would be kind of weird and you people listening later wouldn't get it. But you can see it. You know, you'll have some fun. So I hope in the future maybe you'll join us. So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about something that is kind of near and dear to my heart. We're going to be talking about a founder's launch. And a founder's launch is my favorite kind of launch. Now, you maybe have heard me talk about how we don't need to launch and how launching doesn't have to be the centerpiece of things, and I agree with that. But a founder's launch is my favorite kind of launch because it's short, it's sweet, it's simple, it's to the point. It is something where you basically are getting scrappy and trying something out. Basically, a founder's launch is a pre-sale. It is a pre-sale where you're testing out an idea before you've made the product that you're going to make. Now, you will most often use it in the context of a membership site. And the reason why is because in a founder's launch, you're going to be pre-selling and nothing will be created. So oftentimes, that's going to be something that will be much easier to pitch for a membership site where you're saying, look, here's my vision, here's what we're going to create. But also, it's easier to start creating a membership site relatively quickly. That's one of the benefits of a membership site. You don't really have to put a ton of content together to really launch it. So this is where it will normally be used. And it's a concept I first learned from Stu McLaren in Tribe last year, his program about creating a membership site. But me being me, I did things a little bit differently. And, part of what I did differently, like last year, he had some swipe that literally everybody and their mother was using. So like almost everybody was, sending out the exact same emails or doing the exact same scripts on Facebook Live. Me being an email guy, there was no way that was going to happen. But I also decided to really kind of up the way I was doing it. Now, what you need to understand is this is how I launched my Fans First Society last year. For those of you who are relatively new, you may think Bobby's always been talking about, the business stuff. He's always had business stuff offerings. Well, at the time I didn't. At the time that I launched the Fans First Society, I had never been paid by anyone for anything other than the legal stuff. Now, I had a list at the time of about 4,500 people, but again, it was a list of people who had joined my world to get legal stuff, to get legal templates from a legal freebie, etc. Even though like my podcasts, I talked about non-legal stuff, literally all of my freebies, everything I did, everything I had out there to get people on my list was about the legal stuff. And I didn't have any way that I was like transitioning them. Like now I transition people over and do that, but then I didn't. And so you got to be, I'm going to be honest with you. I was scared to death. I was scared that when I launched this kind of new idea into the business stuff offerings, that I was going to hear crickets. People were going to say, no, he's just a legal guy. And that was my concern. And I had that fear. And so I will be honest with you, when I was executing this launch, when I first hit send, it took a while. I hesitated because I was afraid. And I was like, what would it say? What would it mean if people didn't buy? And luckily now I've gotten over that kind of mental baggage and I don't worry about that. I try stuff all the time, and if people don't buy, no big deal. But back then I had that kind of fear, and I know a lot of people do. And that's another one of kind of the beautiful things of a founder's launch is candidly no one has to know if nobody buys, right? I mean, if nobody buys, nobody buys. So you can do that. Now, ultimately, I ended up generating over $13,000. I think it was $13,371. It was something like that I generated in that founder's launch. And so, luckily, my fears were not well taken. So what I'm going to do on this episode, we're going to walk through how I executed that launch. And this is going to be an episode, there's a lot of content. So I'm going to walk through it, but you also want to go grab the freebie. We created a freebie that is a founder's launch guide. You can get it at bobbyclink.com/pre-launch swipe. Again, bobbyclink.com/pre-launch swipe. It walks through the process. It gives you a funnel map. It gives you the swipe, the emails I actually sent so that you can see it. So you're going to want to go over and grab that. But now with that, I want to walk through how I did my founder's launch. Now, a traditional founder's launch, a lot of people would tell you that literally it is a one-day launch. You literally only have your cart open for one day. I decided to do a 2-day period. And I think a 2-day period works because, candidly, I like the opportunity to send more emails. And so I need an opportunity to send emails. So I wanted to make sure that I had that in place. Now, with that, I want to walk through kind of what I did over the process. But before we talk about the emails, I want to talk about what you have to have in place. Because a lot of people, when they hear launch or they hear I'm going to sell stuff, they think there has to be a lot of fancy stuff in place. For a founder's launch, there does not. In fact, you don't want there to be a lot. Because what you're doing in a founder's launch is you're inviting people into a program, whether it's a course or a membership, at a crazy good deal. And you're telling them, part of it is basically, I want you to help me kind of co-create this thing. You're going to be the first people in it. So you're going to help me kind of direct it and figure out where this ultimately goes. So with that, like writing a sales page would be crazy. So you're not going to create a sales page. And again, that's something that, like, unless you are a copywriter, writing a sales page is a very difficult process that trips a lot of people up. You're not going to do that. What you're going to do is create a simple checkout page. Now, you could even go crazier than that and literally just send people like a PayPal link and set up a PayPal plan or whatever. But because I have Kartra and I had Kartra set up, I just created a very simple product and checkout page. And so when people raised their hand and said, yes, I want in, they were sent to the checkout page. That's it. That literally is all the tech you need to do this. That and a way to email people. Now, also, I'm going to talk about this from the perspective of email because I'm an email guy. You could also do this on social media, and you could complement an email launch with a social media launch. So take the same type of messaging that you're doing in emails and also put them into social posts, for example, especially if you have a bigger social following. But this is not something where you're, reaching out to cold audiences, where you're advertising, anything like this. This is an offer for your existing core audience where you're saying, I want to help you because you're part of my crowd and I want you to help me create what we're doing. So that's what you're doing in this Founders Launch. And like I said, I did it over 2 days and there were 3 emails that I wrote. On day 1 in the morning, you're going to send kind of the biggest and most important email. This is what I would call a value load email. But in this context, it's very specific. A value load email is an email that oftentimes is what I refer to as kind of the first email you're going to send during a promotion. If you're doing an email only promotion, a webinar promotion, anything like that. Once the cart is open and you're saying you can buy, you're going to send out something that I call a value load email. And it's an email where you load up and talk about the value they're going to get. So that's why I call it that. But in the context of a founder's launch, it takes a slightly different perspective. I'm a big fan of story-based emails. If you know me, you've heard me talk about doing that. So my standard way of doing a value load email, like almost anything else, is to start with a quick story or something like that. Well, in this context, for your founder's launch, the story you're going to use is very set. It is, what is the origin story for this product? For if it's a membership, what planted the idea in your mind for this membership? If it's a course, what planted the idea in your mind to create this course? That's what you're going to talk about. In my case, I told the story that most of my followers have heard many times now, that Tarzan K shot me a note last Easter Sunday saying something, and that's what got me thinking, and that's what planted the idea. Just so you know, for timing-wise, I was looking at this. I went from getting that message from Tarzan to actually posting my founding launch, I think in about 3 weeks, because that's the kind of person I am, that I end up moving quickly and I get things done. So, but you don't have to go that quickly. But the point is, you want to tell that origin story. So that's the first piece of the email. The next part of the email, so the second part is, you're going to explain what you have planned for the course, for the membership, etc. And with a membership, this is why it works perfectly for a membership. Oftentimes, you don't yet know exactly. You have a general vision. You don't even have all the contours set out. That's where I was. So that you know, this was my founder's launch I did for the Fans First Society. At the time, I didn't even have a name for it. I was calling it, I think, the True Fans membership or something like that. And I had a general broad sketch of what I had in mind, and I laid that out. So you're going to lay out what you have in mind. So think of it as, Stu would call it casting your vision for the membership. With a course, you could do the same thing. Say, here's what we're going to do. And you might, even if you had an idea of like, here's what the modules will be, or here's what we're going to do, you could lay that out. But the concept is to tell them, what are you going to get? From there, you invite them in. You invite the people who this message is going to join you. And because it's via email, because it's all that, you'll often, transition by saying, because you are on my list, because you're already my people, I want to invite you to join me inside this membership course, etc. So if it's a membership, you do that, or a beta. Like if you're doing a beta launch of a course, you would say that same thing. So you invite them in, and then you want to do a couple of things here. Number one, you want to create some urgency. and you want to create some real anticipation. So there's a couple of ways you're going to do that. Number one, you're going to make this offer at a crazy good price, like literally the best price it will ever be offered. And you tell them that, and you explain what's going to happen and how it's going to, be more expensive once you're out of this, etc. And then you give them a deadline. And the deadline is, you're going to send this on day one, and you say the end of the next day. I would always do 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the old days. Nowadays, I've moved that back because I don't want to stay up till 11:59 p.m. anymore. So, I would often, whatever. But you pick whatever time it's going to close the next day. So you create the urgency and scarcity by saying it's a crazy good deal and it's only available until tomorrow. And so you want to do that. So that's the piece of it. And then let's talk about how you actually have them buy. In this first email, and there's a couple things. Stu teaches it this way, and I think there's a secondary reason. Stu teaches, especially if you're going to do this on social media, you want to put something where you're just literally saying, DM me if you want the link. Or in my case on the email, I said, hit reply if you're in, and I'll give you a link. Now, part of the rationale of doing it that way is literally no one knows if someone has hit reply, has DM'd you, etc. So that's why, you wouldn't, if you were doing this on Facebook, you wouldn't say post below or comment below if you want in. Because if you do that, and all of a sudden people see that no one has commented, that can create the negative social proof, right? So you want to avoid that. So you're going to ask them to literally direct message you or hit reply via email. And then from there, when they do, you're going to reply back to them, say you're excited, how great it is, and then you're going to give them a link to that checkout page. So that's how the first day works. That email you send out on the morning of the first day. And then you sit there and you see what happens. And one of the things I put is kind of a pro tip in the guide. Again, and if you haven't yet, you want to grab the guide. Go to bobbyklink.com/pre-launch swipe. Again, bobbyklink.com/pre-launch swipe. You'll get all of this put in a nice guide, also with all the swipe copy, etc. So what I put as kind of one of the pro tips there is engage with people if they're responding and saying yes. Get them to talk about it. Because part of it is if people say good things, you can then use that in the next two steps. I was lucky enough that literally on that first email I sent, because again, literally they're taking a chance on you. They're taking a chance that you are going to follow through, etc. And one person responded with something like, taking a chance on Bobby doesn't seem like much of a risk. So that is a great piece of social proof and a great thing that you're going to want to potentially use. So that's the end of day one. Then on day two in the morning, what you're going to do is you're going to segment your audience. You're going to segment them based on whether they opened the email the day before. If they didn't open the email the day before, you'll simply resend that to them with a new subject line. And here's a place where on this one, I would normally when I resend to unopens, I just resend the exact same email. On this, I would actually put a little blurb at the top saying something along the lines of, hey, I sent you this yesterday. Notice you hadn't opened it yet. It is really time sensitive, so I wanted to send it again. Now, the reason why I would suggest doing that in this case is because it's literally only 24 hours later. Normally, you're going to give multiple days before you resend, and so you want people to know why you're resending. So I will put that little blurb for those people. So those are the people who didn't open. The people who did open, you want to do something different. You're going to send a credibility boost email. So I talk about this in a promo sequence that you'll want to send a case study email. And you don't have case studies for this product yet, obviously, because it's just starting. So you can't send that. But you want to send some kind of email that boosts your credibility with people who haven't yet made the decision to buy. Now, this is where if you did that work the day before, if you got responses and if you reacted and if you got any good gold, you can use it there. So that's what I did there. I took that comment that woman had said about taking a chance on Bobby doesn't seem like much of a risk or something like that. And I put that was the hook for my credibility boost email. Now, if you don't get that, you just look for any kind of testimonial you have that talks about you being reliable. So I want you to think about that. Being reliable, serving, coming through. Because the point here is the big objection that people might have is this thing doesn't even exist yet. And so how do I know you're going to deliver? So that's kind of the objection you're wanting to overcome without having to hit it on the head. And the best way to do that is people talking about it. So if you have any testimonial about anything you've done that talks about you being a reliable person, someone who follows through, that's what you're going to use. But so that's one piece, this testimonial or case study. Beyond that, though, there's two other things you can do. You're going to give them a cell phone number that they can text to talk to you about this offer. Now, I was crazy at the time, literally gave them my cell phone number, my personal cell phone number they got. Now, since then, I've quit doing that. I use an app called Sideline. So, for example, I'm letting the cat out of the bag here. When you get those emails from me where I say, here's my phone number if you want to text me, it's now my Sideline app. Now, just so you know, that is on my phone. It is me. It's just coming to me, etc. It's a way to basically get something kind of like a voice over IP on your cell phone. Get that, get some other service where you can do that, give them your number. The reason why is if you think about it, if someone is willing to actually talk with you via text and even maybe offers, if we need to jump on the phone, we can jump on the phone, it bolsters credibility. When I do this in launches, generally, I've had people say, I don't even need to talk to you, but the fact that you're willing to do that has made me decide I'm going to buy, because it just makes you seem like a reliable person. So you're going to do that. And then the last piece is say, and if you have any other questions, just hit reply. I'm here to answer them. These are all things that are making you responsive and look like a reliable person where they believe you're going to follow through. So that's kind of this credibility. So you send that the morning of the second day. And in this email, you actually include a link to the checkout page because you don't want to miss a thing where they have to email you and then you have to do it. You're going to kind of grease the wheels at this point, make it much easier. Then the final thing you're going to do is a last call email. 3 to 4 hours before the deal expires, you send a last call email, which is all about creating urgency. This is a standard kind of, hey, last call, you've got 4 hours left, you got 3 hours left, whatever it is. Hit the thing, talk about how the after this is gone, the price is gone, etc., and then you move on. And so that's it. And you send that email to everybody. And that is the process. You go through that process. And in a simple iteration, you do this once. You just do it to your entire list once. I did, and this is kind of also in the guide, as a pro tip. I did it in a slightly more nuanced way. First, I sent it to the people who had bought or had access to my signature legal offer. So I kind of thought, hey, those are the people who are my core group. So if you have a signature product that you've already sold and you're launching something new, do it to that group first. And that's what I did. I did it to them first, and I gave them a slightly better deal. By having like this, I said, look, you are my core people. You've bought this, so I want to give you this opportunity first. It creates even more exclusivity, more urgency, more kind of, hey, I'm in the in crowd. So I ran it to them first, and then I ran it to the rest of my list at a slightly higher price, but still a crazy good deal. So that's how I did it. You can do it that way if you want to, and if you have people who have bought a signature offer from you already. So that's a founder's launch in a nutshell. That's how you do it. This is a great way to kind of test demand, test the water. See, are people on board with your idea? Does the market say, yes, this is a good idea? Because I don't know about you, I would rather know that the market says, nah, I don't want that, before I put in the work to create the product. And this is something that I've come around to more and more these days, is I would rather sell it before I make it. Now, again, once you get further along, there are certain products where you're like, yes, this is a simple way, this product is definitely going to be a hit. I can go ahead and create it. But other than that, like, for example, for those of you who took the plunge with me and are in Badass Email Marketing, we're creating that as we're doing it. Now, again, I knew it was going to get created. I knew people were going to take me up on the offer, but I wanted to sell it first and then create it. And so this is a great way to test ideas. Do a beta launch for a course, do a membership site. Just make sure the market is saying, yes, this is a product we want. We will buy it. It takes the weight off. And again, if you think about it, you can do it a couple of different ways on pricing. This is not in the guide. You have to decide how you want to do pricing. When I did pricing, instead, like my membership at the time was going to be a monthly membership, but I decided to do lifetime membership for my founding members. And at the time, it was kind of the only time, and I believe it's still the only time, anyone has been offered the opportunity to a lifetime membership. That's why I was able to bring in, a big sum of money, $13,000. Other people choose to go a different way. Other people choose to, for example, say, I'm just going to give them 50% of the standard monthly cost, and they have that for life as long as they stay. You choose which way works for you. One way is a way to get like a quick cash infusion, which I was like, hey, if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to create it, I want to go ahead and make sure that we do this. The other way is, if you go with the route of giving them a good deal on the monthly rate, so half the normal monthly rate, for example, you are creating recurring revenue. The power of either one is that what you end up doing isn't just generate revenue for yourself. You create kind of the core people who are going to be there over the long haul. Like we're now almost a full year after that launch of the Fans First Society. And I know that not all of them, but a lot of the most active members in the Fans First Society are people who signed up during that founding member launch. During my recent launch where I unveiled Badass Email Marketing as something where if people signed up as an annual member, they were going to get access to that. One of those founding members was in the comments saying that joining the Fans First Society was the best investment she ever made. The people who you bring in as your fans or kind of as your founding members, they tend to be the biggest brand advocates you can ever have. And they help you shape the membership or shape the course. So there's power in this beyond market proof, beyond making some money. The power is that they become some of your best brand advocates out there. So my call to action to you today, do a founders launch. If you're thinking about launching something, do it. And I know there are some people in my community who have been talking about it, who've been doing it. I want you to do it and don't wait, because nothing is going to be better than today. Go ahead, create it, and make sure that you are doing, you follow the process, and it'll validate your idea. So that's it for today's first ever live Friday episode of the Certified Badass Online Marketing Podcast. I hope everybody has a great weekend, and I will see you again in next Tuesday's standard episode. Talk to you later. That's it for this episode of the Certified Badass Online Marketing Podcast. Make sure to tune in next time. And in the meantime, go out and build the badass business of your dreams.